sophomores. Welcome to Julius Caesar. We're going to be looking at mostly the history of how Shakespeare wrote, but especially focusing on the history of how he wrote Julius Caesar and why he chose to do some of the things that he did. Now, I think obviously that these are fascinating facts. How you like that alliteration? But let's go ahead and take a dive into Julius Caesar. Remember, I'll be asking you to listen and write down some notes other than what just shows up in the blanks. So, first off, we take a look here. Shakespeare did more than just write plays. In his plays, he seeks to expose human nature for what it is. Gosh, that sounds familiar, huh? We know John Steinbeck did that when we talked about him. We talk about all different authors that always want to show humans for who they are. Now, think about the TV shows and movies that are popular, right? There's always betrayal, there's always sex, there's always greed, there's always lust, there's always all these different elements that make for really good TV and good movies. Well, that's because it takes the awful things about human nature and puts them into a plot. If you think about it at the time, obviously they didn't have those things. Their entertainment was plays. So Shakespeare was reading his audience and he included all of those things in his plays. So he took a look at people's motivations and he wanted to uncover them. He wanted to uncover the greed, the lust, the pride, the jealousy, the hatred, and the love that people have. Again, take a look at all of these elements, and I think that you'll recognize that they show up, excuse me here, you'll see that these show up here in a lot of our TV shows and movies. So the people of Shakespeare's time weren't really different. They just went to go watch a play instead of flip on their television set. So, Shakespeare includes elements of the natural world, and these are things like storms, very violent storms, or owls that are out during the day, things that we don't normally count on seeing. And he does this to show that nature is mirroring the strife in the human world that's happening. You're going to see in Julius Caesar things like this pop up when there's tension between human relationships in the play. He uses them as a way to signal that to the reader that that's coming. He also uses supernatural elements, and he does that to show that there is unrest in the world. So some of the supernatural elements are things like soothsayers, people that can tell the future, see the future, men on fire walking the streets, dreams that come true, lions just roaming through the streets. I guess that might go more in the natural world as well. But you can see he shows these different things that don't normally make sense, and you're going to see these pop up when humans are making some really poor decisions and when there's strife between humans in the play. Now you'll see that Shakespeare uses soliloquies. A soliloquy is when a character is on stage and they're speaking all by themselves. Now sometimes the rest of the people in the play are frozen in action, or sometimes the character is all by him or herself out on the play, or I'm sorry, out on the stage in the play. So he uses the soliloquies to give the character an opportunity to address him or herself. Now a lot of people think that the soliloquies are used to address the audience, but that really wasn't Shakespeare's intent. He didn't really need the character to interact with the audience at that point. Instead, he uses them to further the character development. Think about a play. It's not like reading a book where we can say, shoot, gosh, I hate that person, so and so thought. That's not an option in a play. This is the only way to really get a character's internal thoughts and feelings, so Shakespeare uses the soliloquy to do that. Now, if you think people love stories of revenge, right? Think about the TV shows. Oh my gosh, there's a TV show even named Revenge. We are driven as humans by revenge. Our first instinct typically is if someone wrongs us, we want to wrong them back, right? So people love those types of stories. Now, Julius Caesar follows closely the pattern of the typical Elizabethan revenge play. This was a very popular genre of play, and there's kind of a formula that is spelled out. Hamlet also follows the formula of revenge. But its style is different than Shakespeare's other plays. Typically, in Shakespeare's other plays, there's usually just one act of injustice. Typically, it's a murder. So, a lot of times, there's just one thing that somebody does to wrong somebody else, and then that's made up for in the rest of the play. Well, typically, the person who is doing the wrong is punished by somebody and they're seeking revenge on him or her. Now, this usually happens through the ghost of the murdered person. You will see the ghost of a murdered person show up in Julius Caesar. That follows the format. However, in Julius Caesar, there's not just one wrong act. There is wrong act after wrong act occurring. Everybody is betraying each other, and so we're going to see how everybody should be seeking revenge as opposed to just seeking revenge on the one murderer in the play. So during the Elizabethan era, you have to think people became more interested in Roman literature and art. They obviously didn't have the same exposure that we have now. So this would have been something interesting for them to explore. And the subject of the ruler or the leader of Julius Caesar was interesting to the people of the time. Julius Caesar was a very real person, very, very pivotal in Rome's development. So Julius Caesar is one of the 4 plays that Shakespeare sets in Rome. They were mesmerized by the Roman culture. They wanted to learn more about it, find out how Rome got so powerful, how Rome fell, etc. So Shakespeare was interested by Julius Caesar, and he mentions Julius Caesar in a couple other of his plays. So the beauty of Julius Caesar is that it doesn't just apply to Roman times. It's not just for the Elizabethans. Like all of Shakespeare's other plays, it can be applied to human nature and the life of politics today. As you read, I want you to pay attention to the political dissension that's happening in the play. Those of you that love politics, you're going to love this play because you're going to be able to identify the different characteristics of the different motivations of the different people in the play. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to put them into what we've already seen this year in the election, how we saw some of the exact same things coming out. So this is a brief overview of Shakespeare and his motives for writing Julius Caesar and some different things that set Julius Caesar apart. As we continue on in the play, you will also be able to learn more about who Julius Caesar was as a person and the historical things about him.